So you're an icon of government management. The practices you employed early on in your career leading Baltimore have been adopted broadly as ways to shepherd state and local governments. Were there practices you had employed that didn't work during the crisis? Things that you learned that that didn't take hold?
Yeah, I had no course in emergency management or preparedness when I faced my first big crisis. And the truth is, the men and women that we elect, very few of them, the men and women that we elect to executive offices across the country, very few of them ever have a background in emergency management. So my crash course was a bit of a train wreck. In fact, it was an actual train wreck. It was a giant tunnel fire in Baltimore that shut our city down for 5 days. Nobody could come to work. There was smoke billowing out of both sides of a 1.5 mile tunnel that ran directly under our city, and that exploded a giant water main that fed the entire downtown, and also cut off light rail and energy and all sorts of things. So it was in that crash course of emergency management that I learned, usually by making mistakes first and then quickly learning from those mistakes. One of the initial mistakes I made was that I had no idea about this concept of a unified command. Stupidly, as I rushed back into town to deal with the fact that people were fleeing a doubleheader, and there was a decision that needed to be made about whether or not to order a large, apartment area of our city to shelter in place. I told everybody to meet at the police department. Why? Because I was most familiar with the police department, because I knew that they had a brand spanking new command center that we had built out at the police department. But what a big mistake and offense that was. This was a fire incident, not a police incident. And the unified command that people were relying on me as an executive to stand up, to enforce, to maintain, was a unified command, not underneath the guidance of the police department, but a unified command around the leadership of the fire chief and his fire incident commander. And so I quickly learned that we needed to that the fire department was leading this, not the police department. And as the best deputy the fire chief ever had, I needed to do everything in my power to bring those other agencies under his command. And so that was one of the early mistakes we made, and one of the lessons we learned. A second one was this: if you're not talking to the public, if you're not regularly communicating what's going on and what you're doing about it and what the public should be doing about it, that failure to communicate is itself a miscommunication. And you allow conjecture and rumors and other stories unhelpful to putting out the fire or getting ahead of the crisis to permeate if you're not, as the official voice, laying that down, that regular communication, and making yourself the voice of what's happening, where and when, and what we should do about it.